Welcome back to Locker Room Dads. Really fired up for this guest today. This dad is a former second overall pick in the 2008 NFL Draft. He is one of the select few NFL players to win back-to-back Super Bowls on two different teams. Chris Long, welcome to the show.
Dude, it's good to be here. And yes, dad, that's my proudest title. So I'm not even blowing smoke. My kids don't listen to podcasts. I got no reason to lie.
Yeah, dude. So talking about podcasts,
Yes.
what do you got going on, man? I know that you're done playing now.
Yeah.
What's your day-to-day looking like?
Well, honestly, I keep saying this. I saw some of these prove it deals and I'm kind of like, I got something to prove. You made $10 million. I'll prove something. What do you want me to prove? No, I'm all the way done, dude. And, love doing Greenlight Pod. I got, dudes at work that I love coming to work every day and seeing. And, shout out to the producers we got here, Reed, Kingston, Taylor, all those guys. And then co-hosts I grew up with and Macon. And, it's cool. I get to call my friends and talk about football and really whatever I want to talk about, which is great because it never stops at football. But it's a cool like second career because it is a grind, as you guys know, as much or as little as you want it to be, and we churn out a lot. So I'm very thankful to come to work with these guys.
Yeah, you're killing it, man. You're killing it on that Greenlight Pod.
Thanks, man.
You guys are doing great.
It's fun. Sure. It's fun, but it's harder than football. I just told somebody this. Like football, you make a play, everybody cheers. Podcasting, you just hits like you see your pod go up and you're like, I don't know. Does everybody hate it? It's way different than football. It's a little bit of a mind, you know what?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you're making the game plan for it. You don't have a coach running the game plan.
Exactly, which careful what you wish for, because when you play, you're like, man, this coach doesn't know anything, and then you become the coach or the boss. It's like, damn, dude, this is hard.
Yeah.
So,
but before we get into you being a dad here, I do want to talk real quick about your charitable work. I think it's super interesting with Water Boys. I know you won the Walter Payton Man of the Year in 2018. Just walk us through your involvement with that. I've heard a little bit about him through Kyle and like Johnny Hecker and guys that you played with and close to. So I'd love to hear about it.
Yeah, Water Boys is it's our nonprofit that we look to implement clean water solutions all around the world, domestically, and really where we started was in East Africa. Globally, I mean, you could put your finger on a map. It's probably not too far from somewhere people don't have water. Initially, I went out to Tanzania the first time to climb Kilimanjaro. I think it was after my 6th year or something, and brought a friend, had a blast, but kind of came away and saw the realities of life that are obviously much different than the way we live. We take access to clean water for granted, and it's ironic because that's literally what we need to live first. Like after air and that sort of thing. I'm no scientist, but water is up there, and so like it just blew me away. And when I left, I wanted to help somehow. Kind of fell into a situation where I was there my last day. We climbed the mountain, we were hanging out, drinking a beer, and into the restaurant walked somebody. I always tell it like this. Somebody said my name, and I was like, wow, why would anybody be saying my name in East Africa? Nobody knows who I am here. I play in St. Louis, of all places. Anyways, so it was Joe Buck. Joe Buck was in Tanzania.
Nice.
Yeah, dude. And we just ran into each other, and we knew each other because he worked with my pops and also a St. Louis guy. And he was there on a water project and kind of planted the seed in my head that like, this is not only a huge problem, but there's something you can do about it. And this was at a time where athletes were just kind of scratching the surface on how we could use social media for good. And I thought, hey, there's a way that we can leverage our platforms as NFL players and try to be a multiplying force for each other in this niche of delivering clean water to people around the world. Now, it was going to be outside the box, and it was a real challenge. And we had a goal of 32 wells, large solar-powered wells that provide clean water for up to 7,000 people. I wasn't sure we'd hit the goal. We shattered that, and now we're on to 1 million people served model
Amazing.
Goal. And so we're over 500,000 people. We've put in 100 wells. We have a hometown H2O arm. So when people ask, hey, what are you doing at home? Like, we're also helping here, which should let people know that there's a lot of issues domestically with clean water access and contamination. And We're going to work on Navajo Nation, and we've worked with veterans on our Conquering Kili climb. So this universe that we built for sports influencers, like trying to help out. And the biggest teammate we've had has been our fans. Like, this is an outside the box problem for Americans, and they've really picked up the ball and run with it. So I appreciate it. Waterboys.org, if you want to check it out. I don't want to bore you with all the horror stories, but there are terrible stories that we hear every time we go in country. And they're all kind of the same. This is an unfair issue that, a lot of the women and girls in these villages have to walk 6 miles, maybe 5-6 miles to get clean water from a place that animals are defecating into the water source. So like, I wouldn't even go swimming in it. Folks are drinking it. Kids are drinking it. People are dying from waterborne illness. It's stifling the growth of communities. And so I really do believe, as a pragmatist, is the best way we can make a difference around the world.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. I'd love to be a part of it. I know we could talk a little bit off air about it. I know
we gotta get you up the mountain one day.
Oh yes, Pat.
I'd love that.
Specialist. We had a specialist trip. We get Hecker up there. We get Hecker climbing. Maybe Jake McQuaid. Some of my, maybe Donnie Jones. We just get a punter summit. Literally.
There you go.
All right,
I'm in, man. Let me know.
Good.
I'm in.
All right, good.
Seriously.
Good.
But let's get into the dad stuff here. I know that you have 2 boys, right? Waylon and Luke.
Mm-hmm.
How old are they?
6 and 3. So Waylon just turned 6 and Luke is 3. And it's a fun time, man, because they start to hang out with each other.
Oh, that's great.
So being a boy dad is different. Pat and I have backgrounds on girl dad right now. So being a boy dad is crazy. I have heard that the boy dads have it kind of okay early on, and once they start getting like 5 or 6, that's when the like craziness really comes out. Is that true?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, but it's fun because there's 2 of them, and I'll say it out loud, like when they start playing with each other, it's really heartwarming, but it's also great because like you don't have to entertain them all day. And I was so intentional about having kids after Meg, my wife, and I were so intentional about like having kids later. And I waited till after 30, till after I finished playing, basically. I mean, like Waylon came along and I was in New England, so I knew the end was near. But like Luke, my last year coming along, it's been great to spend a lot of time with my kids and not be somewhere else mentally or physically. I still work my ass off. I think work-life balance is really healthy, but I really do try to spend as much time with them as I can. And I see the time slipping. It's like your kids, man, every time I put my kids to bed, I'm like, damn it, slow down. Like, people say that to you. And then you become a dad and you realize you look up and a couple of years went by. So I'm just really in a very fun stage where I'll take all the crazy shit, dude. Like, I don't care how many objects are flying around the house. I don't care how much yelling there is, like how loud they are. Like, you only get it once. So I'm super excited about this time period.
Are you guys done with the 2 boys? You ever talk about 3?
We've talked about it, but I come from a family of 3 boys, and it was just like, of course, I just said like I don't mind the shit show, but our house was like it was like dangerous. It was like it was just every man for himself. And my poor wife, like if we have another boy, like that's just
that's asking for trouble.
Yeah, and I've been through it. I lived it, 3 boys, and so another thing is like it's tough. One thing we always talk about is, are Waylon's 6 now? Like, do I really want to start that clock over and just like do all the stuff that we thought was in the past? And do you really want to have kids that are like way spaced out? I hear different things. Everybody I talk to, actually, sibling wise, is like, no, we got along great. We were 8 years apart, or we were 7. We we were best friends. And like, then the oldest one babysat and all this stuff. But I think part of it is just my kids are like so tight right now, and we're all so tight. I'm like, man, I don't know. I could get greedy and we could have another kid, or these kids could we just or we could just really enjoy this time. So I'm trying to stay in the present.
You have to. But how are you at the kids sporting events? Do they play any sports right now? Are they doing like kids gymnastics? Are they like exploring what they want to do?
Waylon is going to be like a rock climbing dude. I think he's just so into like the individual sports that are like Like he really wants to ride a dirt bike, and that hasn't happened yet. He really wants. He likes hiking. He loves like cars, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's like a race car driver one day if he does anything. But I think he's just a big, strong kid, and like I think it's probably inevitable that he does like a ball sport. My wife is a great athlete. She's a better athlete than me. She played college lacrosse at Virginia, and she's just that type of athlete that picks anything up. A lot like Kyle, like you play with Kyle. Kyle and my dad are the two best athletes I think I've damn near ever been around. They just pick up a new sport like no problem. That's what my wife's like. I'm the opposite. Like I've been good at a couple things in my life, and only one of them is a sport. And so I hope Waylon didn't get that gene. I'm way easier about kids sporting events. I will be way easier than my wife about kids sporting events. She will be the one yelling at the ref. She will be the one who's intense. I will be the one who's like keeping everything in perspective, right? Because it's just like sports is about the work ethic, the teamwork. The outcome is fine, but I think if you get too obsessed with the outcome and you kind of like overpressure your kids, they can almost fight and go the other way. I truly want my kids to do what they want to do. I really do. I'll never push a sport on them. But one thing my dad did was like, hey, if you decide to play a sport, you're going to be the hardest working guy playing that sport, because that's how you got to approach everything. And that's how I will approach, my kids' sporting events, is as long as the effort's there, as long as you're a good person, a good teammate. Like I'm not sweating like, is he hitting 400 in Little League? Like,
right.
Now I say that now until I'm like watching him struggling to throw the ball or something. And I'm like, my wife's going to be on the edge of her seat immediately. Me, I might take 6 walks. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because I mean, you have such a great gene pool. You know what I mean? Like,
it's not bad.
If you were like a subpar athlete in high school, and like the dads out there were just like killing their kid at the field, like, well, you have a reason to yell at them. You'd be like, "Don't you understand this genetic gene?"
Yeah. So that's the thing, is like that we got great genes, but like, and maybe Kyle will yell at his kids about sports because like, yeah, like he's a hell of an athlete, but like until 10th grade, dude, and still, if I try to pick something up that I don't like, I can't play golf. I can't play. Somebody wants to play ping pong with me, it's going to look terrible. I mean, like I am not a natural athlete. I know how to work really hard. And that'll be the only non-negotiable for my kid. I don't think I'll struggle like watching my kid suck at a sport. And I know he's not listening, but if you ever do, and you will at some point, one of the many sports that I will encourage you to play, because that's another thing, is like I want kids to play as many sports as possible. It's easy for me to say, if I was a kid that didn't have a lot of options, maybe I'd have to go all these camps and, kind of specialize. But hey, you're lucky. You don't need a scholarship to get an education. Like your situation's pretty good. Like I think if you can afford to, play as many sports as you can, like develop athletically. I mean, there's so many ways to have fun and improve athletically. And so that's what I'll do with my kids.
Nice.
Yeah, we've actually talked on here before about like the parents kind of living through their kids and the burnout. And it's nice to kind of let them explore it. And just as long as, like you said, you're giving 100% effort at the one you like, then great. As long as you're not trying to burn them out and say, hey, you're not hitting, 500 for the season. What's wrong with you? You're good.
Baseball's tough. It's gotten tough because you can play baseball like year round. You go inside, you hit BP, like, there's summer ball, there's fall ball. Like I was a lucky enough kid that when I played 4 sports in high school. So I played, and you're like, how do you do that? Well, what happened is me and the baseball coach didn't get along. So my freshman year I played baseball, which was my first love. And then I said, screw this. I went over to play lacrosse for 2 years and then came back my senior year to play baseball. So I played basketball, baseball, football, and lacrosse. And, I loved like spreading it out, but that's a different time and a place. Like, I think now I would have been pressured to do any one of those sports and just pick one and kind of exhaust the calendar, because there's the expectation that, hey, other kids are doing this. So I think it's really tough for parents. Parents have it tough with like the whole thing of kids going to school and being like, what are those kids? Those kids get to do this. That's what everybody else is doing. I think the specialization is totally rampant, and it's going to be hard for parents to be like, trust me, spread it out, but I really do think you
Right.
can.
I could see, I'm just envisioning, because I've met your mom and your dad. So I'm envisioning like Meg actually being like your mom. She's probably like on the edge of her seat, like screaming. So I could definitely see like the correlation there. But no, that's
no
awesome,
question.
man.
My dad just
I'm
sits
glad
there quietly, stresses out.
if he had something to say, it's probably right when you got in the car. Like,
exactly.
How do you think you did?
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, it's never a good one.
Yeah.
How do you think you played today?
Yeah.
That's, it sucks at 17, but it sucks even more at 31. When dad's like, how do you think you played today? I'm like, dude.
You're like, yeah, well, I already know. Thanks.
It's all good though, Dad. Thank you. How do you think you played? That's a great point.
But hey, we could transition. We don't want to bring up any bad memories here with Dad. we could talk about how did the pregnancies go for Meg? Were they pretty straightforward? Were they really tough on her?
I mean, they're tough. I mean, like, she's a trooper, so like it's just that was one of the most eye-opening kind of experiences for any guy that watches their wife like shoulder that burden of carrying a child for 9 months, and then like this how scary it is to go and deliver a baby, and then your work begins. Like, it's an incredible process, and I think it does change you, like being a father, like fundamentally, and it's subtle. It's like, I'm just never going to be the same. Like, not only do I have a purpose in life that's way stronger than ever, but I also, like, my wife, who I thought I respected a great deal, I respect her tenfold now. And, like, it's just a bond that kind of exists through going through that 9 months, but also all the little memories of the scary stuff. Like when you walk out of the hospital and they like literally don't give you a syllabus or anything. They're just like, here's the door. And you're like, I have a small child. Can you drive me home? Like, make sure we have all the things in our house. It's a miracle. It's a miracle. There's a miracle, like creating a life, but then also like succeeding at this thing is a miracle. I mean, it's like, it's such a cool journey. And it starts with a 9 months. It's like, damn, I just get out of the way and try to help however I can. And early on when the baby's small, it's like the dad's just as useless. So it's a humbling experience. And
I was going to ask
a lot of respect.
So I'm assuming it was somewhat near New England time when you had your first.
Yeah, it was a good time. It was a good time to have a baby because, like, there ain't much to do in Foxborough, and I don't think my wife had any FOMO. Like, she was just like, oh, we're going to post up here, me and Waylon, while you're working all day long. So that was Foxborough. It was his first fall was Foxborough.
Nice. Oh, so that was a special time then. The Super Bowl
special.
And everything.
Yeah, it was special. Yeah.
That's a good time.
Yeah. I was
and hard because you got to leave for OTAs. I'm not taking my family to New England in the summer. No offense. Like, I'm not going to uproot, my young son and my wife and my 2 dogs. Like, you guys stay home. I'll go up for OTAs. I'll come back on Fridays. Like, that's the thing a lot of people don't realize is a lot of guys have homes elsewhere. Like, our home base is Virginia. So that was a challenge. Nice. I was lonely up there. Like, we were training and it gets dark so New England's weird in the summer. It's just bizarre. And I just remember just driving around aimlessly, missing my kid, and just thinking, damn, this is a really tough time because I'm never going to get this back. And I have to choose kind of my career this summer. And it kind of drove home. Like, I'm glad I am doing this in the sequence that I am.
For sure.
So what did you do during that time to kind of stay in touch too? That might've been before FaceTime was like as prevalent as it is, but
no, it was FaceTime, bro. It was FaceTime. FaceTime is such a, I think about all the dads that like grew up, or the kids that grew up in the 80s whose dads are like businessmen and like traveled and all that stuff. And like, you'd wait all day for a phone call. Like on a landline, like guys, at the payphone. I don't know. I'm making the 80s seem like the 60s or something, but like it's just, we're so lucky nowadays to be able to FaceTime and see each other and that sort of thing. Like I couldn't get enough of FaceTime. I'd FaceTime at work, I'd FaceTime in my breaks. And it's like, we're so lucky to just kind of be able to have that technology now, because I can imagine if somebody, my father-in-law worked his ass off and would travel internationally, and now I'm thinking about how hard that was for him. Like I can't even, like, I leave town and I'm bummed, like, for a night, 2 nights, even it could be the most fun thing in the world, and I have this kind of like inner conversation, like, damn, is it worth leaving town? I'm gonna miss my kids for 2 days.
It's nice to hear that, though, that you're a dad through and through. Like, there's some dads out there like, damn, I can't wait to get away from this kid.
With the boy.
Yeah.
Let's go.
They're not on TikTok yet, so when they're on TikTok, I'll be going on like 2-week vacations.
Jesus. TikTok.
You probably earn it by that point, right?
No, I'm gonna bribe them. Honestly, I heard about this. I'm going to bribe my kids not to go on social media. Like, I heard there was a kid, since this is a dad podcast, I heard about this kid in town that was making like 4 figures over a couple years, like guaranteed money. If you just stay off social media, I'm absolutely doing that.
Okay. We definitely did not plan to talk about this today, but I think talking about social media and kids is a good one here. So we're going to stay on this.
Yes.
I think social media for kids is super toxic. Even for adults, it's toxic. You're trying to be someone you're not. You're living a lifestyle you're not. You're trying to flex on people, whatever. For kids especially, though, like now it's like you get Facebook at like 8 or Instagram or whatever. It's weird. It's just
not my kids. We're guaranteed money in my household. And some people can call my kids. Some people are going to say, like, I'll probably tell like one of my friends at a dinner party, like, damn, your kid's spoiled. He's getting like a G a year to stay off. I'm like, no, my kids might be spoiled, but your kids are into some fucked up shit. Like,
seriously.
Okay. Like,
yeah.
So I worry about like when you send your kid to school, it's scary enough. Like, that's the right amount of real world, like you send your kids to school. That's part of being a parent. One day you're going to say bye to them. They're going to go to college and the real world, and you really can't wait up at night wondering what they're doing. Like, sending a kid online is tenfold terrifying, because it's just you never know who has. You at least can control that environment. You send your kid to school, like your public school, or you've picked your private school. You've picked where you live, depending on who you are. If you're lucky enough, like, you can be in a really good situation. Social media, it's like you might as well just kiss your kid goodbye for as long as they're on that, and you don't know what's happening.
What about the flip side? What if you were able to see what they were doing, and then they're posting, you have like an Alias account? Huh?
No, I've thought about that. My dad has an Alias account, and I think he does it just to monitor his adult sons. But honestly, maybe I could see that, but I just think the problem is like a slippery slope of, you said it, like Facebook at 8, like, what's next? Like, it's just, it's so toxic. You said it, it's so toxic for adults. I'm so thankful that I grew up in a time where everything we did wasn't online. It's tough for the adult version of your kid. And it's tough for the kid who's developing so rapidly and could be bullied, or could be, their self-esteem could be affected. Like, if you see Social Dilemma, which I'm working on, it's a documentary. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But they, you talk to the very people that created these things, and they were created for evil. Like, they were created to mess with your head. Like, there are algorithms that are created to make you chase that dopamine hit. Like, what does that do for a kid whose brain is developing? People worry about drugs. You got to worry about drugs, but like, that's a different kind of drug. And you can't tell if your kid's high when your kid walks in the house after being on Twitter for 3 hours. Like, you know what I mean? That kid is chasing a stimulus response, and it sucks because that's not even a good environment. Like, everybody, like you said, is somebody else. You're your meanest version of yourself. You're your most attention hoarding version of yourself. It'd be worth it if you could figure out a way to keep your kid off social media by incentivizing them to either with cash or like a great experience. Like, hey, we go to Busch Gardens at the end of the month. If you don't and just pick some every month. If you have the means to do that and you have the opportunity, I think it's not the worst idea.
I like that. I do like that. But I'm scared to death because I have a daughter. You know what I mean? Like for a boy, it's like, oh, like if he plays sports and like people are bullies and they're mean to him, and I'm like, the whole girl phase like on Instagram and TikTok is insane.
It is.
It should be honestly 18 and above. If we could like cap that or make like a bill, pass it or whatever, like let's do that.
It's tough. No, I don't see here the TikTok lobby has to say about that. But I, like the
lobby.
I couldn't even imagine. Yeah, like it's scary, dude. It's just scary. So I will be, for the listeners, I will be employing that. And I know that like some people would say, well, your kid could get bullied because they're not online. I'm like, I'll take my chances with the real life bullies. Like then the ones that can hide behind a screen name and be ultra ugly and I never know about it. Like if my kid is getting bullied at school, hopefully that bullying is people are aware enough of that ugly thing that goes on, has always gone on at school, that people are looking for it. And maybe my kid and I have a good enough relationship where they'll tell me, like, is somebody being mean to you? Like, did you have a bad day? It's important that I start setting a tone right now with my son. Is like, how was your day? And really listening, and like, because I'll know if it wasn't good, because I've tried to foster that relationship.
That's great, man. I feel like you got this dad thing just dialed in. This is easy for you.
No, it's not easy. You guys know it's not easy.
No.
Your best days, if you have a good day, it's like being a football player. Like, oh, what a good day I had. I'm a great player. And then the next day you suck. So that's some curveball gets thrown at you. So
day to day, right?
Yeah, it's we're not perfect, man.
But I do want to hit on transitioning back to football real quick, if we could. Just the Super Bowl experience that you had. You had it with the Patriots and the Eagles, and what was it like to experience that with both of your kids and your wife, and all the hard work that you put into grinding away, when you were probably like 13 years old, like you never thought that you would actually make it to the Super Bowl, let alone do it twice and have that experience with your kids and your family. So I just want to hear just a little bit about that, if you could.
The family made it for me, man. Like, I just, I didn't cry after the Patriots Super Bowl because it was just such a shock. It was like the range of emotions. I think I was just fried, like, and relieved. But like getting to Philly was such a different thing. And I always remember spending time with my kid on the field in New England. But after the game, like my son came up and gave me a hug and I just lost it. Dude. Like it was like, if I hadn't cried in 10 years, I was going to get 10 years worth of crying. Yeah. Waylon came down the field and I just remember thinking like, I'm good now, and I think a lot of that as a player, and you know how it is, Pat, is like you're always measuring against like some of the best, and it's just exhausting to compete for so long. Like the mental strain of being an NFL player it's really hard to get there. It's incredible to get there, but it's even harder to stay. And that my journey ended the way it did, not only on the field, but that my family life was kind of taking shape, and that we had these two kids. And I was petrified of being a dad before being a dad. Like part of waiting a long time was I was afraid to be a dad, afraid to screw up, afraid to be shitty at it, afraid, like that I'm immature and selfish and all those things, which I am. But your instinct kicks in, and it kicked in just the same way on that field. Like I think I would have been so moved to win 2 Super Bowls, but nowhere near as moved as I was to look for my family on the field. Like that's one of the coolest. Every time I watch Super Bowl from now on, I think about the guy finding their family, like his family. Like when Andrew Whitworth, he told his kids he was retiring, or like Eric Weddle was on set and he hadn't found his family, and that whole thing, like as soon as it ends, you just want to, the kid in you wants to show your family. You're like, look what I did. Absolutely. He doesn't care. He's 3. He doesn't. But we will have those pictures forever. And it meant a lot, dude. It meant a lot to have my kids on the field.
Was it as hard as everyone makes it seem? Like you're looking for your wife in the stands. You're like, where are the kids? Like you're like looking at the clock and like, golly, this is taking like 15, 20 minutes. Like everyone's like
You're
waiting
kind
and
of on
waiting.
your
Like,
own, dude. You're just like,
yeah.
it's one of those rare times where you tell your family, like, good luck. Like, this is on y'all. I'm like, I can't, you know, like if your wife calls you and has 15 questions about like, hey,
Yeah.
you know, I'm like,
Logistics of how to get down
Google it.
there.
like,
Right.
Google it. I'm at work or whatever. Like, I can't do that when they're trying to find us down on the field. And, I, man, I just was thinking about like the New England game. We were down 28-3, and I'm like, this is going to be the worst thing ever. And like, my wife's here, my family's here, my parents are here. And it turned into be the best day ever. Like that's the Super Bowl though. It could be Rob Ninkovich explained it to me when we were sitting on the bench down 28-3. Actually explained it to me well before the Super Bowl. He goes, this is going to be awesome, Chris. But he goes, I've lost one before. And if we lose the Super Bowl, it'll be the worst day of your life and you'll never forget it. And I was like, okay, all right, cool. And I was thinking about that, and I was thinking about my family being there, and I was thinking about, it just all works out, man. And not to mention, it was a dad podcast, but I'm a proud son. You know, like my dad and my mom are two of the greatest people you'll ever meet, and you know they got to be there. And not all my games my dad got to be at. You know, like that's just part of the deal. He didn't make all his money playing football. He's trying to provide for us. He's busting his ass going to West Coast, and there's plenty of games I had to call him after the game. You know what I mean? He saw maybe under 10 of my pro football games in person, you know, and they were usually when he was working them because we were never in the playoffs in St. Louis. And then just to get that whole experience and get my dad was on set and I get to like roll up and say what's up to him pregame, like I was getting out, you know, like it just, the whole thing was crazy.
So for the corporate America dads out there, like that are like struggling to just be a dad themselves, like how did you balance being a dad and football player? Was it somewhat easy for you? I know you said Meg was a huge part of that and helping you, but what advice do you have for guys out there, like new dads? You know, they're like, oh shit, I don't know if I can do this. Like, what would you recommend that they do, or you know, get a group of guys around them, kind of ask questions?
I think number one, you can like that's what you're biologically wired to do is like raise kids. Like like this is it's going to kick in. So like I think it's one of those things you just have to step off the ledge, or if you know you've already stepped off it, just know that like you can fly, dude. Like you're going to be fine. And like far worse parents have raised kids successfit's like I just think about all the resilient kids in the world that I'm like, and think about, it's a little bit of a sidebar, but when I was a kid, I slept on my face in my crib. There was no baby monitor. Like who knows what else my parents were doing? Because that was the way of the world in 1985, dude. Like things have changed so much. This is the best time, like from just like, you're not going to screw it up. You know, like just know there's plenty of resources. There's plenty of, and also I think it's okay to be afraid. I think that's one of the most fun things about being a dad is the fear of like people are bored when there's nothing that challenges them. The people are bored when they don't have like a purpose. The only way you have you can't get a purpose without something being scary as hell. Like you can't, like they don't just give purposes out. Like you have to earn them. And that's part of the deal is like, it's going to be you were put on earth to do this. Not everybody has to be a dad, but if you're going to do it, you'll realize what I'm talking about. You were put on earth to be a dad. Like, and just trust that you've got it. Like you've got it in you. And, you know, depending on where you live, like, is there a dispensary nearby that you could manage your stress with? You know, like, because you're going to be stressed out and you're also trading in your autonomy, like bad news. Like you can't just go to the bar without asking permission anymore.
Right.
But I think everything comes with time and it's the right time. And I'm happier than I've ever been as a dad. Like, honestly, I've never been so happy.
I agree with that.
Yeah. You know, one thing I think that really helps when you started saying all that, it kind of made me think the longer Pat and I have done this and I've been neighbors with Pat, and Pat's in the same walk of life as having a kid, around same age, all that. Knowing someone else going through what you're going through, being able to talk about it, know that you're not alone in that journey, makes you feel a hell of a lot better. Because I was afraid to go for number 2. And I was like, I don't know, I'm not ready for a second kid. And then all of a sudden it was like, you know what? I don't give a shit. Like, I'm up for the challenge. I wanted a second kid, go for it, right?
For sure.
And
step off that ledge, man.
Why be afraid?
Talk to somebody. You said it. Like, I talk to my buddies all the time. We have a dads in distress group text is what our group text is called. Me and my buddies, I swear to you, it's called dads in distress. And,
that's a good name.
Like, yeah. And dudes will like literally be like, yo, what is going on right here? Send a picture of, poop up a kid's back. Like, you're just like, damn, TMI, but I've been there. Or, there's going to be things that pop up, like tough conversations, man. I've had some of the hardest conversations I've ever had in my life with my son. Like, I feel like I'm equipped to have any conversation. Like, I'm not afraid to talk to anybody about anything. But me and my son, he'll ask me a question and there's no warning. It's not like, hey, tomorrow I'm going to ask you if our dog dies, what happens, or what happens when, like, there's no warning, dude. It's just when the kid figures some shit out, the kid's going to ask you. He's going to ask you at dinner.
Fire away.
Like, so just, you can't be perfect. And, just lead with your heart, man. I really do believe that. If you love your kid, like I love my kid, which everybody loves their kid that way, you'd imagine, like, you're going to be the best thing for that kid because you love that kid. Like, that'll come through. Like, if you just love openly and you communicate openly and you don't have to, I really do think all the blueprint stuff, all the books, I might be raising a hellraiser and not know it, but I just hope that just being me and loving my kid and being open, like my dad told me every time I talk to him or we finish talking, my co-host gives me shit about this all the time. Macon, shout out. He's like, I'll get off the phone with my wife. I say, I love you. He's like, you guys say that every time you get off the phone? Oh, it's so cheap. It's like, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, dude, like my dad was macho man. He was like the baddest man on the planet, but he was affectionate. And he told me he loved me every time he talked to me, like whether we get off the phone, it'd be time to go to bed, like whatever it was. And you could say, like, if you hear it 100 times, it doesn't mean as much, but talk to one of your buddies that never heard I love you growing up. Like, that sucks. I think like if you can be as open and loving as you can, like that kid's gonna want to please you. Like, like my kids are afraid of me, but I think deep down they look at me as like one of their friends too that absolutely loves them, and hopefully they want to do the right thing for that too.
Yeah,
for sure. It's nice to hear that from a football player because the dads out there are probably like, oh my God, these football players are so super tough on their kids and they never say I love you. It's probably refreshing for them to hear that. You know what I mean? Like how to raise a boy, a girl, whatever, and say I love you. It's okay to do that. You're not making them soft. You're just showing them affection.
Yeah, it's a different challenge because like raising a boy, like I have no idea what it's like to raise a girl, but you try to raise a boy, like there's all these standards for what's masculinity, what's being like a man, like what's being I really do think being a man, as people call it, like is about being able to be tough, but also be really, sensitive. And like, you want your kids to be sensitive and be in touch with their emotions and like, and be affectionate and not be afraid to show love and affection. And, I just hope that my kids end up, better for us telling them exactly how we feel. You know what I mean? And also I can be a hard ass, but I can switch right back. Like that's the key. If you're going to be mad at your kid, don't stay mad at your kid. He's 6.
Right. Yeah.
Like, like don't hold a grudge like you would on your spouse the rest of the day. Like don't walk around huffing and puffing in the kitchen. Like your kid is 6 years old. He screwed up, like you got to be able to speak to your kid like an adult, tell them what they did wrong, but then go right back to being their best buddy. You know what I mean? Like that's my philosophy.
They see that too. They see how you treat mom. They see how you interact with the younger son. Like they definitely are watching. Like my daughter's only like 1.5, and I'm like, she loves hats and things, and like because I put them on, I'm like, what is she gonna be like when she's like 4 or 5, 6? I'm like, golly, they watch everything you do. Yeah. So
everything, dude. So observant.
So crazy.
So it's like, that's another thing. There's a distinct age that hits where you're like, I can no longer speak freely.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
100%.
Like he's picking up all this shit. Okay.
Yep. Yeah, when they start by mimicking the motions you do. Like last night, we got the girls to do cheers with their bottles.
Yeah,
and they were
cheers.
walking around. They wouldn't stop doing it. And now we're like, they're for sure going to start saying the things too. So that's coming.
That's right.
You know it.
Clinking your glass so hard, just like all night. Like once they learn to cheers, they don't stop.
Oh my! It's a new party trick. They don't
Leah-
stop. They wear it out.
Leah probably shouldn't have taught them that.
No, it's priceless, dude.
But do you have any hobbies right now as a dad? I know you do the podcast. I know you said you're not good at golf.
No.
Or is that just out the window when you're a dad? Are you just like, okay, or do you have you time? Do you have a thing that you do that you chill and relax? And
I guess work is my you time, which kind of sucks. But that's always been a weakness of mine is like, hey, just sit down and don't do anything. But I really do. I do enjoy the time when the kids go to bed. I'll admit that because like you don't realize when you're a parent because your instincts are to just like not worry about it. Like you just go. You don't get any time to yourself. And I think it's really healthy if you have the right people that can kind of like, if you have good childcare, like we have my parents live in town. Not everybody has like grandparents right down the road, but that's a time where I don't feel guilty about leaving my kids for a night. Like we're going out to dinner or like, I really do believe you can be a great dad and still have a great time and live your life. Like I think a lot of that starts with like the partnership that you have with your spouse. Like my wife's awesome. We're partners, you know what I mean? Like she respects my needs like individually. I'm a very individual person. I like to be by myself sometimes if I can. I like to go, like I'll go to the movies alone. I just need that alone time, and she's quite the opposite. But I think as long as we know what we both need, like she'll give me my time. I'll try to give her time. And then also we need our time because like you can get so caught up in being parents that you don't spend any time on each other. And that sucks because for you to lead your household, like you have to have a good, strong partnership. And like you said, your kids pick up on it if you and your wife aren't getting along. Like, so you're as a man with a family or as a woman with a family, like you're much more than just a parent. You're like this, like a leader of an operation, dude. And everybody has to be like getting along and pulling in the right direction. And it all trickles down to the kids because they're the stars of the show. Like that's why you're doing any of this. So you got to invest in each other. I feel like is another big one.
For sure.
Yeah.
You're the CEO, you're the head coach. Your wife's probably the GM. Like she makes the final decisions on certain movements and things and personnel. But hey,
exactly.
No, that's great, man.
Exactly.
I know you touched on movies and stuff, and you have like you time.
Yeah.
This is my last question here. What is your all-time favorite kids movie show? Like, what are you guys watching over there? What do you wear out in that household? The Long household.
We really like Bluey.
Yes,
I think Bluey's fun because like parents will laugh a little bit, and it's like down to earth, regular. Like the parents aren't kind of the way I described. Like parents are kids too sometimes, and the kids are adults too. Like they ask adult questions. I really like Cars. They love Cars. But I was us. We were watching Pixar movies. This generation. For years, so like we were ready to watch more Pixar movies.
I can't wait for this moment. Yeah, when she's ready to watch those Disney movies.
Yeah,
Josh's
what do y'all like?
Josh's kid wears out Encanto.
Oh God,
It's like nonstop every
Moana
day.
now.
Encanto, I think they just recently watched that. Are there a lot of animals all of a sudden? There's like a rainforest tree in there, or no? Is that
it's the one where it's all about the family. They all have the powers and.
Okay, got it.
A lot of singing.
You don't talk about Bruno.
Yeah, don't talk about Bruno.
I don't know.
Bruno, don't talk about Bruno.
Yeah.
So I gotta say, like, they're really into the Wildcrats now. So like, one thing we do is I have a friend that is like, we don't watch cartoons. We just watch real TV. So like, if it's sports or like whatever, I don't subscribe to that. I think cartoons are fine. I lead a moderately successful podcast, and I've watched cartoons my whole life. So, but honestly, it's like one of those things where we'll come in the house and I'll be like, what do y'all want to watch? We're watching Planet Earth, and it's like Komodo dragons fighting, or it's like, or it's giant squids or like whatever. And I just love seeing them get charged up about wild animals. So we'll watch a lot of Planet Earth, Our Planet, that type of thing. And they love the Wildcrats. It's this new show.
Okay.
where these two
Gotta check that
brothers,
out.
your kids would love Wildcrats.
Oh, we gotta watch that.
Yeah, there's like Wildcrats live sitting near you. Like, make a weekend of it. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
go check it out. Yeah.
Is the Planet Earth, that's the one where like the lizard's like on the run and he's getting chased by the snake or something?
By the snakes. They're racer snakes. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're on that island, and that was terrifying, but my kids watch it, like, no problem. You know, I really think like it's okay for them to see stuff like that. I'm not that worried about it. That could be bad dad advice.
Yeah.
Nah.
Yeah.
Nah, they'll be fine. They'll be good.
Yeah.
The world's greatest generation like grew up watching Tom and Jerry, like, you know,
Yeah, seriously.
well said.
crush
sir.
each other
Yes.
with like anvils and shit. So I think we'll be fine.
With
Yes.
no speaking.
Yeah,
exactly.
it was just pure
No
violence. 20 minutes of violence.
Yeah. Yes, dude. Those kids are like, they walk to school on their own. Like, their parents just said, go outside, come back, like, by dark. Like, we're helicopter parents now.
We really are. I try not to be. The
Yeah,
first
I'm
one,
trying.
I think I'm okay to be, but like your second one, you're probably like, it's okay. Yeah.
That's the
Yeah,
way
Go
it
upstairs
is.
alone.
Yeah.
You can figure it out.
Yeah, second
That's
one
the one.
falls. You're like,
Oh, it's totally different. It's totally different now.
Shit.
Yep.
I'm looking forward to it. But Chris, tell the listeners where they can find you if they want to listen to your podcast or follow you on IG.
Yeah. Our podcast is Greenlight Pod. We are on Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcasts. Also, Greenlight Tube on YouTube. We post some shows there. We do some other stuff. And then Instagram. I think what is my Instagram? La Flama Blanca. Is it 95 still? I can't get that changed. I'm still a patriot, evidently. Yeah, La Flama Blanca 95 after Kenny Powers.
Worth a follow, worth a
Yes.
listen. Check them out. But Chris, thank you so much for joining us on Locker Room Dads. We do appreciate your time, and I know the listeners do too. So
Thank
you
y'all
so
for
much.
having me.
Thanks
Shout
for
out
being
to the dads out there,
all the dads,
even the boy dads. All right,
See
see
you, Chris.
Locker Room Dads is brought to you by Stormhouse Brewing. South Florida's best pint and bite is located in sunny North Palm Beach. Whether you're looking for a great craft beer, delicious food, or watching your favorite team, they're always brewing the perfect storm. And Coach First. Coach First is a fully integrated app that is designed for athletes and coaches alike. Whether you want to book your next training session or take your coaching to the next level, Coach First is the app for you. Find them on the App Store and sign up today.